Jake Morrison walked through the busy halls of New Horizon Station. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor as he moved between the crowds of alien traders. The air smelled like a mix of different atmospheres and strange foods from dozens of worlds. Jake was the captain of a human cargo ship called the Iron Wolf. He was here to pick up supplies and trade goods, just like he did every month. His crew was small but good. Lisa Grant was his first officer, a smart woman who could handle any problem. Carl Brooks was the engineer who kept their old ship running. They had been working together for 2 years now, but today felt different. Jake noticed how the aliens moved around him and his crew. They stepped aside when the humans walked by. They whispered to each other in their strange languages. Some pointed at the humans from far away. "Captain," Lisa said, as she walked up to him. "Something weird is going on. The traders won't come close to our docking bay. They want to load our cargo from outside the ship." Jake looked around the station. A tall blue alien with 4 arms was talking to a group of small gray creatures. When they saw Jake looking at them, they quickly looked away. A snake-like alien slithered past, but it went all the way around to avoid coming near the humans. "Yeah, I see it too," Jake said. "Everyone is acting strange around us." Carl Brooks joined them near a food stand. His face looked confused. "Boss, I tried to invite some Vorthan mechanics onto our ship to check the engines. They looked at me, like I asked them to jump into a fire." An old Vorthan merchant slowly walked toward them. Vorthans looked like big turtles that walked on 2 legs. This one had gray skin and 4 eyes that kept moving around nervously. He carried a data pad in his clawed hands. "Excuse me," the Vorthan said in broken English. "You are crew of human ship, yes?" "That's right," Lisa said. "I'm First Officer Grant. What can we do for you?" The Vorthan's 4 eyes looked at her, then at Jake, then back at her. "I have cargo manifest for your ship. Good cargo. Fair price. But we load from outside only. Never enter human ship. Is rule." Jake stepped forward. "What rule? We've never heard of any rule about our ship." The old alien's eyes went wide. "You not know? All galaxy knows this rule. Human ships are forbidden territory, sacred space, very dangerous to enter without permission." Carl laughed. "Dangerous? Our ship? The Iron Wolf is just an old cargo hauler. We carry farming equipment and medicine, not weapons." But the Vorthan did not laugh. His face became very serious. "Human ship is not about weapons, is about humans. When humans are in their ship, they become different, more dangerous than any weapon." Lisa and Jake looked at each other. This was crazy talk. They were peaceful traders, not soldiers. The Iron Wolf had basic shields and 1 small gun for protection. From pirates, but nothing special. "I don't understand," Jake said. "What makes our ship so different from any other ship?" The Vorthan looked around to make sure no one else was listening. Then he moved closer and spoke in a quiet voice. "There is story. Old story from 3 years ago. All species learn this story. All species remember. Human ship called the Helix. Scientists, not warriors. Peaceful people like you." The alien's translator made small beeping sounds as it worked to change his words into English. "Krillian Empire. Attack this ship. Big mistake. Terrible mistake. Krillian send soldiers onto human ship. All soldiers die. All of them. Killed by peaceful scientists who become like demons when their ship is invaded." Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. The Krillians were known across the galaxy as fierce warriors. They had conquered dozens of worlds. If Krillian soldiers died on a human ship, something very bad must have happened. "What exactly happened to the Krillians?" Lisa asked. The Vorthans' 4 eyes blinked slowly. "Humans turn ship into weapon, turn everything into weapon. Krillian soldiers enter as hunters but become hunted. Scientists who study plants become killers. Engineers who fix machines become trap makers. Ship itself help humans fight." Carl shook his head. "That doesn't make sense. How can regular people do that?" "Is mystery to all aliens," the Vorthan said. "But we learn, we watch, we see how humans move in their ships, like ship is part of their body. like they know every sound, every space, every secret way. When aliens enter human ship as enemy, humans become something else, something terrible. The old merchant handed Lisa the datapad with the cargo list. So we have rule now. Sacred rule. Never enter human ship without invitation. Never board, as enemy. Is death sentence. All galaxy knows this. All species tell their children. Jake took the datapad and looked at the cargo list. It was normal stuff. Food supplies, medical equipment, some rare metals. Nothing dangerous or military. And this story spread everywhere? Oh yes, the Vorthan said, nodding his big head. Krillian Empire try to keep story secret. Too embarrassing. Whole boarding party killed by 12 humans with no military training. But story get out anyway. Now is legend. Now is law. Now is fact of life in galaxy. The alien started to walk away, then stopped and turned back. You want advice from old trader? Be proud of this reputation. Other species respect human ships now. No pirates attack. No governments try to search without permission. You have best protection in galaxy. Fear and respect. After the Vorthan left, the three humans stood in silence for a long time. Around them, the station continued its busy life. But Jake now noticed how all the aliens kept their distance. Not out of hate or anger, but out of something that looked like respect mixed with fear. Do you think it's true? Carl asked. About the helix? Jake watched as a group of insect-like aliens whispered to each other while looking at the humans. I don't know. But look around us. Every alien here believes it's true. They all act like our ship is some kind of sacred temple they can't enter. Lisa looked thoughtful. Maybe there's something about humans that we don't understand ourselves. Something that comes out when we're protecting our home. Our home, Jake repeated. He thought about the Iron Wolf, with its small crew quarters and worn corridors. It wasn't much to look at, but it was home. It was where they lived and worked and traveled between the stars. If someone tried to take it from them by force, Jake shook his head. He couldn't imagine himself or his crew doing the things the Vorthan described. They were traders, not warriors. But as they walked back toward their ship, he found himself looking at the Iron Wolf with new eyes. Maybe there was more to the story of human ships than anyone understood. 3 years earlier, the human research ship Helix floated quietly in space near the edge of known territory. The ship was not big or impressive. It looked like a white cylinder with solar panels and communication dishes sticking out from its sides. Inside, 12 humans worked on their peaceful mission to study new worlds and make contact with alien life. Captain Amy Rodriguez sat in her small command chair, reading reports from her science teams. She was a calm woman in her 40s who had left the Earth military to become an explorer. Amy believed that humans could learn more by making friends than by making war. Captain, said Nina Walsh from the communication station. Nina was young and small, barely 25 years old. She was good with computers and languages. I'm getting some strange signals from the edge of our scanner range. Amy walked over to Nina's station. The screen showed several large objects, moving toward them. How far away are they? About 6 hours at current speed, Nina said. The computer thinks they are ships, but they don't match any design in our database. Dr. Pete Williams looked up from his plant samples. Pete was a botanist who studied alien plants to see if they could help feed people on Earth. He was a quiet man who loved his work and had never hurt anyone in his life. Maybe they're traders wanting to make contact. Amy nodded. Let's hope so. Nina, send them a standard greeting message. Tell them we're peaceful scientists from Earth. The Helix continued its slow patrol while the crew went back to their work. The ship had a small crew of specialists. There was Tony Mitchell, the engineer who kept everything running. Kate Sullivan worked on ship design and knew every bolt and wire in the Helix. Dan Murphy was the cook who also helped with ship maintenance. Each person had their job, and they all worked together like a family. 6 hours later, the alien ships were close, enough to see clearly. They were dark and covered with spikes and gun turrets. The ships looked like they were made for war, not for science or trade. Captain, Nina said, her voice worried. I'm reading weapon systems on those ships, lots of them, and they're not responding to our messages. Amy felt her old military training kick in. These ships meant trouble. Raise shields and charge our defensive systems. Send another message telling them we're peaceful and want to talk. The lead alien ship was huge, much bigger than the little Helix. It had the name Bloodthorn written on its side in strange letters. On the bridge of that ship, Commander Thexkar looked at the small human vessel with hungry eyes. Thexkar was a Krillian, a species that looked like large lizards with sharp teeth and claws. The Krillians had built their empire by conquering other worlds and taking what they wanted. They had heard stories about humans, but they thought humans were just another weak species waiting to be conquered. "Look at that pathetic little ship," Thexkar said to his crew. 12 humans and some basic shields. We will take their technology and study their biology. The Empire will reward us well. The Krillian commander opened a communication channel to the Helix. "Human ship, you will surrender now. We are taking your vessel and your crew. Do not resist or we will destroy you." Amy's jaw tightened. She had hoped for peaceful contact, but it looked like these aliens wanted a fight. "This is Captain Rodriguez of the Earthship Helix. We are peaceful scientists. We have no quarrel with you. Please leave us alone." Thexkar laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "You have no choice, human. We are the Krillian Empire. We take what we want. Your ship is now ours." Amy looked around her small bridge. Her crew was scared but ready to fight if they had to. The Helix was not a warship. It had basic shields, and one small gun for protection from pirates. Against a Krillian battlecruiser, they had almost no chance in a straight fight. "Captain," Tony called from the engine room. "Their ships are moving to surround us. I'm reading boarding pods launching from the big ship." Amy's heart sank. Boarding pods meant the aliens planned to take the ship by force. Once they got inside, the small human crew would be outnumbered and outgunned. But Amy had been a soldier before she became an explorer. She knew that sometimes peaceful people had to fight to protect what they loved. "All hands prepare for boarding action," Amy announced over the ship's communication system. "They want to take our ship, our home, our lives. We won't let them do it." The Krillian boarding pods were small, fast ships designed to cut through a target's hull and deliver soldiers inside. Commander Thexkar watched on his screen as the pods attached to the human ship like parasites. 15 soldiers in each pod, he told his crew. More than enough to handle 12 soft humans. They will learn what happens when they refuse the Krillian Empire. But Thexkar had made a terrible mistake. He thought he was attacking a simple research ship with helpless scientists inside. He did not understand that he was about to enter a human ship as an enemy. He did not know that humans become something very different when their home is threatened. Inside the Helix, the crew felt the boarding pods attached to their hull with loud banging sounds. Emergency lights flashed red as the aliens began cutting through the ship's walls. Amy gathered her people in the central corridor. "Listen to me," she said in a calm voice. "These aliens think we're easy prey. They think we'll surrender without a fight. They're about to learn that they made a big mistake." Dr. Pete Williams looked at his hands. They were shaking, but not from fear. He felt something growing inside him, something he had never felt before. Someone was trying to take his home, his lab, his life's work. The feeling was getting stronger. "What do we do, Captain?" Nina asked. She was young and scared, but her eyes were hard. The Helix was her home too. Amy smiled, but it was not a nice smile. "We show them what happens when you break into a human's home. We know this ship better than anyone. Every corridor, every room, every hiding place. We're not helpless scientists anymore. We're humans defending our territory." The sound of cutting tools got louder as the Krillian soldiers worked to break through the hull. They were almost inside, but they had no idea what was waiting for them. They thought they were boarding a simple research vessel. They were wrong. They were about to enter a human ship, and that changed everything. The Krillians were about to learn the most important rule in the galaxy: never enter a human ship as an enemy, because when humans fight for their home, they become something that no alien force can stand against. The cutting stopped. The boarding was about to begin, and the Helix was ready for war. The first Krelian soldier broke through the hull with a loud crash. Sparks flew as the cutting torch finished its work. The alien warrior was huge, almost 7 feet tall, with thick scales and sharp claws. He carried a plasma rifle and wore heavy armor. Behind him, 14 more Krelian soldiers prepared to enter the human ship. "Move fast," the lead soldier growled to his team. "Find the humans and capture them alive. The commander wants to study them." The Krelians expected to find scared scientists hiding in corners, begging for mercy. Instead, they found empty corridors and silence. The lights were dimmed, and strange shadows moved in the darkness. "Where are they?" one soldier whispered. They got their answer quickly. Dr. Pete Williams had been working in his laboratory when the boarding began. For 30 years, he had studied plants and never hurt any living thing. But when the aliens broke into his ship, something changed inside him. The Helix was his home, his lab, his life. These invaders wanted to take it all away. Pete looked at his collection of alien plants. Some of them made poison, others released dangerous gases. He had always been careful with them, using small amounts for research. But now he needed something more. Working quickly, Pete mixed chemicals from different plants. His hands were steady as he created something new, something deadly. He put the mixture into the ship's air system for just one section of corridor. When the first group of Krelians walked into that corridor, they breathed the poisoned air. The big warriors began to cough and choke. Their eyes burned and their throats closed up. 3 soldiers fell to the floor, gasping for air that would not come. "Gas attack!" one Krelian shouted into his radio. "The humans are using chemical weapons." But Pete was not finished. He moved through maintenance tunnels that only the crew knew about. The aliens were big and clumsy in the narrow spaces of the human ship. Pete was small and knew every pipe and wire. He appeared behind enemy soldiers like a ghost, using poison darts made from plant chemicals. The quiet botanist had become a deadly hunter. Nina Walsh was in the computer center when the attack started. She was young and small, but she knew every system on the Helix better than anyone. The ship's computer was like an extension of her own mind. Nina's fingers flew over the controls. She turned off the gravity in one section, where Krelian soldiers were walking. The big warriors floated helplessly in the air, spinning and crashing into walls. Then she turned the gravity back on, and they fell hard to the metal floor. Next, Nina sealed doors to trap groups of soldiers in small rooms. She turned off the lights in some corridors and made them blazing bright in others. She played loud, horrible sounds through the speakers to confuse and frighten the invaders. "The ship is fighting us," one Krelian screamed. "The walls are alive." Nina smiled as she watched the aliens panic on her security cameras. They had come to capture her home. Now the Helix itself was her weapon. Captain Amy Rodriguez moved through the ship like a shadow. Her old military training came back as if she had never left the service. But this was different from her soldier days. This was personal. These aliens had invaded her home and threatened her crew. Amy had turned the ship's maintenance areas into a maze of death. She used her knowledge of every corridor and secret passage. The Krelians were tough fighters, but they did not know the Helix. Amy did. Every sound, every vibration, every hiding place was familiar to her. She appeared behind enemy soldiers and disappeared before they could react. Her small pistol took down warriors twice her size because she knew exactly where to shoot. Amy moved like the ship was part of her own body. Tony Mitchell was in the engine room when he heard the fighting start. He was the ship's engineer and knew every machine, every wire, every system. The Krelians wanted to capture the Helix, but Tony would not let them have his engines. Tony turned the ship's systems into weapons. He made the lights explode in showers of sparks when soldiers walked under them. He changed the air pressure in different sections to hurt the aliens' ears and make them sick. He even made the floor panels hot enough to burn through boot soles. When a group of Krelians tried to enter the engine room, Tony was ready. He had turned the area into a trap. Pipes leaked superheated steam. Electrical wires sparked with deadly current. The floor was slippery with spilled coolant that made the aliens fall and slide. "You want my engines?" Tony shouted as the Krelians retreated. "Come and take them." Kate Sullivan knew every bolt and panel in the Helix because she had helped design ships like it. When the aliens invaded, Kate used her knowledge to turn the ship's structure into a weapon. She weakened floor panels so they would break when heavy Krillian soldiers stepped on them. The warriors fell into the spaces between decks, trapped in twisted metal. Kate also knew which walls were safe to cut and which ones would make parts of the ship collapse. She guided her crewmates through safe passages while leading the enemies into areas where the ship itself would crush them. Kate turned the Helix into a living trap that helped the humans and hurt the invaders. Even Dan Murphy, who was just the ship's cook, became dangerous. Dan knew the Helix's kitchen and storage areas better than anyone. He had keys to every supply room and knew where everything was kept. Dan used kitchen knives and hot cooking oil as weapons. He threw pots of boiling water and used the food preparation machines to hurt the aliens. He moved through service corridors and struck from places the Krillians never expected. The big tough warriors found themselves afraid of a middle-aged cook with a soup ladle. Commander Thexkar watched in horror as his soldiers died one by one. His radio crackled with desperate calls for help. "They're in the walls," one soldier screamed. "The ship is killing us," shouted another. "I can't find them. They appear and disappear like ghosts." Thexkar could not believe what he was hearing. 15 trained Krillian warriors were being destroyed by 12 human civilians. Scientists and engineers were fighting like demons. A small research ship had become a fortress of death. The Krillians had made a terrible mistake. They thought they were boarding a helpless vessel. Instead, they had entered a human home. And when humans fight for their home, they become something that no alien in the galaxy can understand or defeat. The peaceful crew of the Helix had awakened something ancient and powerful. They were no longer just scientists. They were humans, protecting their territory, and that made them the most dangerous force in the universe. Commander Thexkar stared at his communication screen in disbelief. Only 3 of his 15 soldiers were still alive, and they were begging to be pulled back to the ship. The great Krillian Empire had sent its best warriors to capture 12 human scientists, and the humans were winning. "Commander," came a panicked voice over the radio. "Please, get us out of here. They're not normal. The humans know things, impossible things." Thexkar's claws scraped against his command chair. "What do you mean they know things?" The small female. "She makes the ship do whatever she wants. Doors close by themselves, gravity turns off and on, the walls seem to move. And the plant scientist, he's like a poison ghost. He appears from nowhere with deadly chemicals." Another voice broke in, full of fear. "The ship's cook just killed Warrior Bex Tull with a kitchen knife." "A cook, Commander? How is a cook defeating our best soldiers?" Thexkar could not understand what was happening. His warriors were trained killers who had conquered dozens of worlds. They should be able to handle a few soft humans with ease, but instead, his boarding party was being destroyed by people who studied plants and cooked food. "All remaining soldiers, return to the boarding pods immediately," he ordered. "We retreat." But it was too late. The last 3 Krillian soldiers never made it back to their pods. Captain Amy Rodriguez and her crew had turned their peaceful research ship into a trap that no invader could escape from alive. When the shooting stopped, the Helix floated quietly in space again. Inside, 12 humans stood among the bodies of their enemies. They had defended their home and won, but the cost was heavy. The ship was damaged, and several crew members were hurt. "Nina, send a message to Earth Command," Captain Rodriguez said, quietly. "Tell them what happened here." But the story of the Helix did not stay secret for long. 3 months later, a Nixari news reporter named Vel 9 was working on a story about trade disputes in the outer systems. The Nixari were a species that looked like tall, thin insects with multiple eyes. They were known throughout the galaxy for finding and spreading news. Vel 9 was interviewing merchants at a space station when she heard whispers about a strange incident involving humans and Krillians. The merchants spoke in quiet voices about a research ship that had fought off an entire boarding party. "It cannot be true," Vel 9 said to herself. "Humans are new to space travel. They have no military reputation." But when Vel 9 investigated further, she found something amazing. 3 Krillian soldiers had survived the attack on the Helix. They were in a military hospital, recovering from their wounds. More importantly, they were willing to talk. The first soldier, Beknar had been one of the last to enter the human ship. His scales still bore burn marks from Tony Mitchell's engine room traps. When Vel 9 asked him about the battle, his eyes grew wide with remembered terror. They knew everything, Beknar whispered. Every corridor, every hiding place, every way. The ship could be used as a weapon. The human female with yellow hair, she made gravity disappear in just the room where we were standing. We floated helpless while she... The soldier stopped talking and shook his head. I cannot describe what she did to my squad mates. It was not natural. The second survivor, Kextol, had been poisoned by Dr. Pete Williams' chemical traps. He coughed. As he spoke, his voice damaged by the plant toxins he had breathed. The quiet one who studies plants, Kextol said. He moved through their ship like a spirit of death. One moment the corridor was empty, the next moment warriors were dying from invisible poison. He knew ways through the ship that did not show on our scanners. The third soldier, Lexcar, had the worst injuries. Burns covered half his body from kitchen equipment that Dan Murphy had turned into weapons. Their food preparer, Lexcar said with amazement. Their cook. He fought like a demon with pots and knives and burning oil. A cook, Vel 9. A simple cook nearly killed me with kitchen tools. How is this possible? Vel 9 recorded every word. This was the biggest news story she had ever found. When her report went out on the Nexari Information Network, it spread across the galaxy like fire. The story reached the diplomatic corps of the Centauri Alliance within days. Ambassador Krendos was a careful leader who kept detailed files on all spacefaring species. When he read Vel 9's report, he immediately called a meeting of his advisors. This changes everything we know about humans, Krendos told his staff. We thought they were peaceful traders and scientists, but when their ships are threatened, they become something else entirely. One advisor, a floating jellyfish-like creature, named Wolem, pulsed with nervous light. Should we consider humans dangerous? Should we restrict their travel? Krendos considered this carefully. No. The humans only fought because they were attacked. They tried to make peace first. But we must warn all member species about this behavior. Humans seem to have an extreme territorial instinct when it comes to their ships. The ambassador wrote an official report that went to every government in the known galaxy. The report said, humans display unusual defensive behavior when their vessels are boarded by hostile forces. They appear to have intimate knowledge of their ships that borders on supernatural ability. Military boarding of human vessels is not recommended under any circumstances. But the story grew as it traveled. Each species that heard it added their own fears and interpretations. The Zephyrians, who were traders, told other merchants that human ships were protected by unknown technology. The Helixians, who were warriors, spread rumors that humans could merge with their ships like living machines. Soon, every alien species in the galaxy had heard some version of the story. Most of the details were wrong, but the main message was clear. Never enter a human ship. As an enemy. The story became more than news. It became legend, then law, then instinct. Alien parents told their children about the research ship that fought off an army. Military academies studied the battle as an example of what not to do. Diplomatic schools taught the incident as a lesson in understanding other species. The Krillian Empire tried to keep the story secret. It was embarrassing for their reputation as conquerors. But the truth could not be hidden. Word spread that the mighty Krillian military had been defeated by 12 human civilians. Other aggressive species took note. If the Krillians could not capture a single human research ship, what would happen if they attacked a human military vessel or a human colony? The reputation of human ships grew with each telling of the story. Within a year, every spacefaring species knew the basic rule. Respect human ships. Do not board them without permission. Do not threaten them unless you are prepared for war. Because humans and their ships were connected in ways that no alien could understand, and that connection made them incredibly dangerous when threatened. The Helix incident had taught the galaxy a new lesson about humanity. Humans might look peaceful, but when their homes were threatened, they became something that even the strongest alien warriors could not defeat. Back on New Horizons Station, Captain Jake Morrison stood quietly as the old Vorthen merchant finished his story. The busy sounds of the trading station continued around them, but Jake felt like everything had changed. The aliens walking past were not just being polite. They were following a rule that had been written in blood and fear 3 years ago. "So that's why everyone treats our ship differently," Jake said slowly. "They think we're going to turn into monsters if they come." Aboard uninvited, Zektul nodded his big head. "Not monsters, Captain, protectors. But when humans protect their ships, they become more dangerous than any monster. This is what Galaxy learned from Helix Story." Lisa Grant looked around at the other species moving through the station. "Do they really believe we're that dangerous?" "They believe because they must," the Vorthon replied. "Story spread to every world, every species. Some details change in telling, but main lesson stays same. Human ship is sacred ground. To attack it is to wake something terrible." Carl Brooks shook his head. "But we're just traders. We carry farming equipment, not weapons. We wouldn't hurt anyone unless they tried to hurt us first." The old alien's 4 eyes looked at Carl with something like pity. "You still not understand. Humans think ship is just transportation, but for rest of Galaxy, ship is more than machine. Ship is home. Ship is family. Ship is part of human soul." After Zektul walked away with his cargo list, the 3 humans stood in silence for a long time. Around them, the station continued its normal business, but now Jake could see the careful distance that every alien kept. They were not afraid of humans personally. They were afraid of what humans might become if their ships were threatened. "We should get back to the Iron Wolf," Jake said finally. "I want to look at our home with new eyes." The walk back to their docking bay felt different now. Jake noticed how other species stepped aside when they approached. A group of insect-like traders moved their cargo pallets to give the humans extra room. A family of small furry aliens pointed at them and whispered, "To their children." When they reached the Iron Wolf, Jake stopped at the airlock and really looked at his ship for the first time in months. It was not a beautiful vessel. The hull was scratched from years of hauling cargo through asteroid fields. The paint was faded, and some of the equipment was older than Jake himself. But this old ship was home. Inside, Jake walked through the corridors he knew by heart. Every sound was familiar. The gentle hum of the life support systems. The soft vibration of the engines on standby. The way his footsteps echoed differently in each section of the ship. In the common room, Lisa was making coffee with the machine that never quite worked right. She had to hit it in exactly the right spot to make it start. Jake had seen her do this hundreds of times, but now he noticed how her movements were automatic. She knew this ship like she knew her own body. Carl was in the engine room, running, his hand along a coolant pipe while he checked the daily readings. His fingers found a small dent that Jake had never noticed. Carl knew it was there without looking. Every scratch and repair on the Iron Wolf was part of his memory. "You know," Jake said to his crew, "maybe the aliens are right about something. This ship isn't just our workplace. It really is our home." Lisa nodded as she brought him a cup of coffee. "When I wake up in the morning, I know exactly where I am just by the sounds. The way the air recycler clicks, the hum of the artificial gravity generator, even the smell of Carl's engine room." "Hey," Carl called from the doorway. "My engine? Room smells fine." They all laughed, but Jake could see that his crew understood what he meant. The Iron Wolf was more than metal and machinery. It was the place where they lived and worked and traveled between the stars. It was their protection against the cold emptiness of space. "What do you think would happen?" Jake asked quietly. "If someone tried to take this ship from us? Not just pirates wanting cargo, but aliens trying to capture us and steal our home?" Lisa's face grew serious. "I don't know, but I think we'd fight harder than we ever imagined we could." Carl nodded slowly. "Every system on this ship, every corridor, every hiding place. I know them all. If someone invaded our ship, I could turn the Iron Wolf into a maze of traps and weapons." Jake thought about the story they had just heard. 12 peaceful scientists on the Helix had become deadly warriors when their ship was invaded, not because they were trained soldiers, but because they were humans defending their home. Maybe there's something about us that we don't understand, Jake said. Something that comes out when our homes are threatened. 3 days later, the Iron Wolf was ready to leave New Horizon Station. Jake sat in his captain's chair as Lisa began the departure sequence. Outside the viewports, he could see other ships giving them plenty of space as they undocked. A Nexari trader vessel moved aside to let them pass. A Helixian warship actually changed course to avoid their flight path. Even the big Centauri diplomatics cruiser waited for the Iron Wolf to clear the area before beginning its own departure. "Captain," Lisa said from her station, "I'm getting respectful messages from all the ships around us. They're all wishing us safe travels and clear skies." Jake smiled. The aliens were not afraid of him or his crew personally. They were showing respect for something they understood better than humans did. Human ships were special. They were homes among the stars, and the bond between humans and their ships was something that no other species shared. "Set course for the Outer Rim colonies," Jake ordered. "Nice and slow. Let everyone see that we're peaceful traders." As the Iron Wolf glided away from the station, Jake watched the other ships maintain their respectful distance. 3 years ago, the crew of the Helix had taught the galaxy an important lesson. When humans are protecting their homes, they become something that even the strongest alien warriors cannot defeat. Now every species in the galaxy knew the rule. You could trade with humans. You could learn from them. You could even fight alongside them. But you should never, ever enter a human ship as an enemy, because a human ship was not just a vessel. It was a home, and there was nothing in the galaxy more dangerous than a human defending their home. The Iron Wolf continued on its journey, carrying its crew safely through the stars. And everywhere they traveled, other ships would give them space and show them respect. Not because humans were the strongest or the most advanced species in the galaxy, but because they were the most devoted to their homes among the stars. And that devotion, when threatened, became a force that no alien power could understand or overcome. The galaxy had learned its lesson well. Never break the most important rule of space travel. Never enter a human ship as an enemy, because when you do, you will discover that humans and their ships are connected in ways that make them incredibly, impossibly dangerous. And that lesson would be remembered for as long as humans traveled the stars.